this session is really designed for the customer, the existing Remedyforce customer. Okay, we're not going to be going through the whole process of how you might create an incident and that. We're going to be talking about the new functionality that was introduced in the Winter 14 release. Okay, and so let's just jump right into that. First, starting off with upgrades. The upgrade process is slightly different now, with the fact that we're now doing, our BMC is now doing push upgrades. So really what that means is that it's less intrusive in your implementation of Remedyforce. You no longer have to grant BMC support to access your org. Those upgrades can be pushed to your sandbox. They can be pushed to your production environment. That's entirely up to you. Whereas previously it was a pull scenario where the BMC technicians would have to be granted access to your environment and then pull that upgrade down, right? So now we have that ability to push that. So again, it's less intrusive, than the previous types of upgrades. And in addition to that, once the upgrade has been pushed and provided, you'll be provided documentation that will list the new features and give you basically an outline, if you're wanting to enable those features, how you would go about doing that and whether you want to opt into those new features or not. So one of the things also that's changing here from an administrative standpoint, okay, where BMC is embracing the concept of permission sets versus just simply profiles. And the push upgrades don't allow for BMC to apply access levels to the profile, so that's one of the reasons why the permission sets were needed, because now we do have that ability to do that. And if you've ever done a Remedyforce upgrade in the past, you'd have to go through all the profiles and make sure that everything is set. And so the permission sets, in short, is a much cleaner administrative process. It's a much more accurate way of defining what users can and can't do within the application. So, just note that permission sets are now being used as part of the Force.com platform. And once your org has been upgraded to the Salesforce Spring 14, you'll be able to apply those to multiple people at the same time. In the interim, though, so again, for maybe customers that where before the Spring 14 release is fully released to the general public, you can use an app called the Permissioner, unique name, and it's a free application that you can download from the App Exchange, and that makes it very easy to apply those permission sets to multiple users at one time. Okay, so this is really useful, especially for those organizations that are a bit larger and have a number of users and a number of different profiles and so forth that they're wanting to apply to their user community. The other thing that jumping right into what people use on a day in and day out basis. So prior to Winter 14, BMC introduced the concept of a console, and they had a incident console and a task console. They did not have problem or change consoles, and so you had really a couple of different interfaces that you were using simultaneously within the application. Well, that obviously was a problem, so BMC addressed that with a single console for all modules. So now you have a single console for your incident, service request, your task, problems, changes, and even release records. And so now everything has a unified look and feel, unified capability, and then with that, they've done a number of things to enhance the user interface and to make it easier for your staff and customers to interact with the application. Also, you now have the ability to pick list. So there's some additional capability that's been added to this console that you didn't have. Additionally, you can now customize the forms that are launched from the console very easily. So those are some things that as an administrator and someone that might be configuring the application should really take a close look at. So here's an example of the console, and if I'm just going to highlight some of the things. So here in the console you would have this view button, and in that view button that would allow you to select again from those different types of record types or those different types of objects, incidents, changes, problems, tasks, and so forth, right? So and at any point that you wanted to select one of those, records or objects and view a record, you now can see all of those records in a tab. So it's in one console that you're seeing these records. It's not launching new forms. It's not taking you to a different page. Everything is there, and then you can just simply tab from record to record. As you can see here in the highlighted area, we've got a few different incidents and change requests that are open. Also, another feature that's really not highlighted here, but the fact that now every record has a preceding text. So if it's an incident, for example, it's IN, right? A task would be TS. Change CR for change record. Now, previously change records had that, but this gives you the ability, just by looking at the record number, you know what type of record that you're dealing with, and so that's quite nice. The ability also from this console to link directly to broadcast, and I know that there's probably not a lot of customers out there that are using the broadcast feature, but and I think part of it was because it was such a challenge to get to. Well, now you actually have the ability from the console to link those records to a broadcast, which is nice. And so when you select that button or that option, you would see a list of broadcasts, and then you just simply double-click and or highlight and then click on the link button. Okay. So there are a few features that are exclusive to the incident console, or to records that are in the incident console, should I say. But I will tell you that's very temporary. These capabilities that I'm going to discuss will be extended to the other modules within Remedyforce. But as of right now, note that incidents, you will have type ahead features for all lookup fields. So, for example, if you were wanting to identify a category, you begin typing that, you're going to get a pre-populated list of categories that match up that text string that you're typing. So look ahead, that's, again, one of those things to enhance the usability and make it much easier to navigate. The ability to create custom field sets and custom pages, page layouts for the incident records. So previously, it was a little bit of a challenge to manipulate the forms. Now you have the ability to use the field set functionality so that you can create new sections on the form with the custom fields and so forth. The ability to visually indicate if a field is required. Now, I know in the past that was something that I know personally I struggled with, is knowing exactly which fields were required when I'm registering a record, or I'll forget to populate something as I'm doing a demonstration or showing a customer how to use the product. And so now these visual indicators to let you know that this is a required field. The ability to add blank fields so that you can buffer your screen. So previously you couldn't add anything to kind of weigh out or even out the form. Now you have the ability to use basically blank spaces to have a little bit more control in terms of how the form looks and how it's organized. And then and again, all of these features that I'm mentioning here, these are exclusive to the incident object in the console, but will be for the other modules and objects in the near future. So as we're looking at the incident console here, this is where we can actually, this is a screenshot of the utility that we can utilize to customize the console. So at this point, we would simply just name the layout. So if, in this case it was called Insight Demo, and at that point we have available field sets. So these might be field sets that you have created or that came with a product out of the box, and then at that point, once defining that, you'd have the ability to select which field sets that you want on your form, right? And then once that's been done, then from there, you would have the ability to again define which console that you wanted to assign to individuals, based upon their profile. So you could select their profile, and then with that, you'd have the ability of also identifying what actions that they would have in their form or forms. So again, this is just administrative functionality that you'll have that previously you didn't have a lot of control over the console in terms of what was displayed, what fields were displayed, how they were displayed, and to which users they were displayed to. Now that is certainly all addressed in the Winter 14. Another interesting feature is the filtered lookups. So for example, if you had ever registered an incident related to a specific category, and you were going to do something like select the service or a service from the service object, well, you would get a comprehensive and a complete list of all the services, but there certainly could be situations where you might want to filter that list and only have a certain number of records returned or a certain set of records returned. Well, that's exactly what the lookup filter in the Remedyforce console does, right? So it allows you to control the results in the lookup to other objects. And so, for example, they gave it lists here, give me a list of all the CIs who the class is BMC Computer Systems. I only want to see the computer systems. I don't need to necessarily see list of services and other types of assets that are in our configuration management database. Okay, the filters can be defined with some of the out-of-the-box fields as well as custom lookup fields as well. So the exception there is the impact, urgency, and status lookups. Okay, so you can exclude those impact, urgency, and status values based upon other fields, and that's logical because those things certainly those have an impact as it relates to service level agreements. So you wouldn't want to configure something that would limit you to selecting the appropriate SLA. So other things to think about here is that it's only available in the Remedyforce console. So if you're using some of the native Salesforce.com forms, you won't have this capability. Again, this is only available through the Remedyforce console. So if incidents, problem changes, releases through the Remedyforce console, you have this functionality. Okay, and then filters can be optional. So with that, you don't necessarily you may have it filter down, but there may be times when you want to see everything in the CMDB, and so you can certainly do that.